And now, thank you for joining. We'll turn it over to David Park, who's the moderator for this session.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the afternoon session of the final day of the 2023 ACS Data Users Conference. Hopefully, you've learned a lot of great things. I know we have a lot in store for you this afternoon. I'm with the National League of Cities as my day job, Director of Data and Business Analytics. As part of the conference, I was a part of the Planning Committee. I'm also part of the ACS Data Users Steering Committee. I guess we're going to go in order of the presenters. Hopefully everyone is here now. First up, we have Prakhar Bajpai and Ian Sapp of the City of Austin Innovation Office, who'll be taking a holistic look at community prosperity through a neighborhood level decision support tool. Some housekeeping, if folks could put in their questions in the Q&A, and then other items like shared resources, you can probably put in the live chat, but we also want to capture what you ask. So yeah, if you could put your questions in the Q&A. Along the way, I guess we have 5 sessions. I'll introduce the speakers as we move along. Without further ado, Prakhar and Ian, if you're on. Oh, hey.
Yeah, hey David. Should we go ahead with the presentation?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you see it.
Yes, we see it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So hello, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the US. My name is Prakhar Bajpai, and I am a data scientist at City of Austin's Office of Innovation. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about a recent decision support tool that we have created for the City of Austin. We call it Neighborhood Prosperity Dashboard. It is a collection of different types of tools which help the different both the residents as well as the internal city staff to showcase the different types of prosperities depending on different categories, and then we'll be able to showcase some of them later in the slides as well. So let's go ahead with the presentation. Let's talk about the concept first. So if you see, this is the cover page of the dashboard. We are going to showcase some demonstration later as well, but it is basically a decision support tool which shows you the current state of multiple prosperity related factors on a neighborhood level scale, which means the census tract as far as the ACS terminology goes. We use the most recent data available, and we have created a backend application which automatically updates all the data set as and when the new data comes in. We see and compare different all of these factors on a neighborhood scale for giving the more current, clear, and specific types of insights to the audience. Just a little description of what decision support tool is. So it helps us in sharpen our availability to analyze large amounts of data sets from different types of data set. So this is like an example of what decision support tools are. What can city do with it? We basically give them more holistic view of the city at a very smaller scale level as compared to like giving out a number at a city level. We help them look at a big picture with the nuance appropriate for a robust discussion and policy making. This is like some examples of why this is important for the city in general. So we provide them the data from different departments together. So it is not a department or a problem specific dashboard. It covers the whole different types of data sets and different departments understanding, and departments are able to do these calculations and getting those insights according to themselves only. So these are like few of the features of this dashboard. It is holistic. So it gives you 4 different categories of the dashboards. It can be, which are health, economics, education, civic engagement, and criminal justice. It gives you a precise view of the data at a neighborhood level view. It addresses the complexities. As I've told you, it has more than 30 measures across these 5 categories, which are used to calculate this index score. and then improve the freshness. So it all automatically ingests and analyzes the new data as and when it is available. Some talks about the methodology. We have taken inspiration from National Urban League's State of Black America report, which basically showcased the experience between Black and white Americans at a national level. We have taken their methodology but applied it at a geographical level, which is census tract, and we gave out these comparisons based on the different census tracts within the Austin. Some of the data sets that we have used, the biggest one is definitely American Community Survey data. We have taken some data from ESRI. We have taken some data set from CDC places, which is basically given by the CDC, which has a lot of data sets related to health. And then we also taken some data set from the internal open data portal that the city of Austin has. So we have taken, and then we have created an in-house web application that uses the census API, and then we are able to get all the data set in and then basically present it in front of the audience in the more informed manner. This is how the overview page looks. If you see here, so this is a heat map of how prosperity looks across the Austin. You can clearly see marked by red color that these are the neighborhoods or census tracts which are lesser in score in terms of the prosperity, and then the bluer shade indicates a higher value. You can basically do a lot of filters basically based on the category, the region within the city. You can pick your council districts, and you can pick, like, you can see the average across the city regions. You can see the average across like all the neighborhoods. So as you are seeing, we are seeing a bell curve which shows that majority of the neighborhoods are in this middle phase, some of them being so high on prosperity and some of them being very low. You can see the average stats across the city as well. And then you can do a lot more interaction with this dashboard, and then which I'm going to show you right now. So we have some demonstration videos that we have created, but for the sake of the limited time that we have today, we are going to showcase one of them. And I have uploaded this entire this entire presentation to the organizing team, which you can access later as well. So we are going to talk about the one of the demonstration where basically you can compare the overall index score versus a single indicator. What it basically showcase is that how one particular measure is compared with another. So basically the question that we have here is what happens when you consider the prosperity of neighborhood based on a single indicator like the employment rate versus looking at a more robust group of indicators together like the overall prosperity index score. So we are going to watch this video now and then we'll talk about it again. Welcome. In this neighborhood prosperity dashboard case study, we'll show you how you can use NPD to understand the neighborhood experience 2 factors at a time. In this view, the user can select 2 factors, for instance, employment rate and neighborhood prosperity, and look at how neighborhoods across Austin are doing as it relates to those 2 factors. Do high employment and high neighborhood prosperity always go together for all neighborhoods? What neighborhoods experience low neighborhood prosperity and low employment rate? These are some of the questions that you can answer with this view. This view can help us determine the relative importance of various measures to the neighborhood experience. It helps us understand emergent conditions which become apparent when various factors are combined visually. So let's start with looking at the dashboard. So this is our front page of the neighborhood prosperity dashboard. So we are just going to click on comparison scatter plot. In this view, you can see 2 measures compared for all neighborhoods in a matrix form. All the measures in this view are scaled from 0 to 100, where 100 is the highest value for a measure. 100 is represented by the highest score for the measure out of all the neighborhoods in Austin. And 0 is represented by the lowest score of all the neighborhoods in Austin. Therefore, these numbers are not absolute values. These are measured relative to other Austin neighborhoods. They are scaled to show contrast based on the selected measures. You can pick any 2 measures from these 2 drop-down lists. Right now, we'll start with neighborhood prosperity and second measurement as the employment rate. So we are going to pick employment. Once we have selected our 2 factors, all the neighborhoods are plotted on one of the 4 quadrants. Depending on what quadrant a neighborhood lands on, we can see what it is experiencing as it relates to these 2 factors. Neighborhood in the top left are experiencing high neighborhood prosperity and low employment rate. Those in the lower left red quadrant are experiencing a low employment rate and low neighborhood prosperity. Those in the top right quadrant are experiencing high prosperity and a high employment rate. And those in the lower right yellow quadrant are experiencing low prosperity but high employment rate. So what new information you can walk away with this result? You can clearly see that neighborhood with high employment rate do not always have high neighborhood prosperity, and it is clearly visible from this yellow quadrant. We can also see that a unique case with this neighborhood in the gray section, which is basically in West Austin, where it is experiencing a low employment rate but a high prosperity. To understand more about this dynamic, it could be useful to return to a neighborhood profile view so that we can understand what is driving this result. So after that, we can basically click on this particular bubble and click on go to neighborhood profile to basically see what is driving that result. So it is clearly visible that this particular neighborhood has a high prosperity score. And some of the few factors that you can clearly see is the high median disposable income, very high median net worth of the residents, as well as the high percentage of population above poverty line. You can also see majority population have health insurance access, and they are doing well overall in the health section as well. So these are some of the insights that you can get if you want to look at the neighborhood profile directly from the comparison scatter plot. So let's go back to the comparison scatter plot and then click back on that graph to just reset the entire graph. So we can also zoom in on this map to see, like, especially this region in the Eastern Crescent, that they have relatively low neighborhood prosperity even when they have a high employment rate. This gives practitioners a tremendous clue as to what to focus their efforts on in these neighborhoods. It shows that we may not have an unemployment in this neighborhood problem, but rather we may have an income generation or living wage or wealth problem. But we can look back at what feeds the overall prosperity factor to understand more about that pattern with a new sense of clarity about employment rate. These are just a few types of insights that you can draw using this view. We invite you to use this view and see what a two-factor view can help with your practice. So this is an example of the some of the work that you can do using this particular tool. As you have seen, we have a lot of variables within the dashboard itself, where you are able to like interact with multiple factors together, as well as doing different types of calculations, and based on the particular requirement that your department might have, you can go back and forth. So I'm going to talk about the next steps of where we are right now. We are you can basically, the link is public, so anyone can access this link, and it is also available on our Tableau public profile. So if you just search City of Austin Office of Innovation, you'll be able to access the dashboard and interact with it as much as you can. Right now, we are also working with some city departments here in Austin for a guided use case discussion, where we are inviting different city departments to come in and use this for their specific type of work. So for example, we are right now working with Austin Public Health, where they are trying to use this to basically get more insights on people with high value. So like neighborhoods which have high amount of people with diabetes. So these are like some of the examples. We are also working with another team where they are trying to understand homelessness and displacement and things like that. So that's where we are in terms of this tool exactly at this point of time. And then we'll leave the question to the end, and then I'd like to just acknowledge all the team members on our team, and then thank you everyone for listening through it. And I hope to see some questions if you have any in the chat itself. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Prakhar, I think there are some questions in the Q&A. I know we have a limited amount of time. So I want to tee up our next presentation with Brian Engelman and Catherine Dye of Prince William County. We'll be using Census API ArcGIS products to streamline demographic data retrieval, processing updates, and online display. Take it away, Brian and Catherine.
All right. I'm sorry I joined late. Chrome wasn't working for this, so Firefox it is. I am looking to share my presentation, so bear with me.
Brian, there's a tab at the bottom that says Start Screen Share. And you can just click on that.
Gotcha. Let's see.
Brian, if you're having trouble, I can also go ahead and share the slides if you'd like.
Hey, Brian, can you hear us? It looks like you froze. I don't know. Is Catherine on? Catherine Dye.
David, if you want to go to the next presenter, we can
Yep.
communicate with Brian.
Okay. All right. Yeah, want to make good use of your time, guys. Taylor Lamp, Alexander Chen, Ann Vierse, Isabel Nelson, Euro Lee, Lorna Thorpe, Mark Gorovich, and Benjamin Spoor from NYU. Lango's Health, hopefully I pronounced that right. Are you guys on and ready?
Yeah, thank you for reading all of my collaborators' names too. I appreciate that.
Hey, Taylor. All right, take it away.
Okay. Let me get my screen shared. Okay. Are you seeing my PowerPoint? I'll wait for some nod or thumbs up before I proceed. It's a little... Okay. Everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, thank you for coming to this session, everyone. My name is Taylor. I'm a senior data analyst with this Congressional District Health Dashboard, and I'm excited to talk about our website and talk about the methods we use to get to this product. So I'm going to start by just telling you what the Congressional District Health Dashboard is, and then we'll get into the methods later. So why did we build the Congressional District Health Dashboard? We found that federal policymakers, House of Representatives, Congress people, and advocacy organizations need access to rigorous, nonpartisan, and timely data about their constituents who live in their congressional districts so they can use that data to inform policy and practice. We found via conversations that many of these people, when they don't have estimates for their actual congressional districts, they tend to use county data or state data. And if you've ever looked at a map of a congressional district, you know that these geographies are really not aligned. And so those aren't capturing the populations that do live in the congressional districts of interest. To our knowledge, ACS, why we're here, is the only national data source that directly provides estimates for congressional districts. Every other data source provides for other standard census geographies. And many of you may know that ACS hasn't yet released estimates for the 118th Congress that'll happen this year. And although I do want to acknowledge there was a special data product of profiles of 118th Congressional District released in January. So we identified that there was a need for high quality congressional district data for the current 118th Congress, and we developed the Congressional District Health Dashboard. Our team at NYU Langone spent a year working on the methods and website for this, and we built off of our existing experience with the City Health Dashboard. Some of you may have used that in some of your work. So it was launched in January 2023, right as the newly elected 118th Congress took office. And we provide over 35 different measures related to health and the drivers of health, now publicly available for anyone to use for the first time for the 118th Congress. Especially excited to talk about how we used estimates derived from ACS data, and were able to release those before they were available from ACS in the December of this year. So this is a list of all of the measures we provide. Again, if you use the City Health Dashboard before, you might recognize these. They come from many different federal and other data sources, including ACS, CDC, Vital Statistics, EPA, and many others. I've highlighted here which ones provide demographic breakdowns, and then the ones in orange represent those that come from ACS. So you'll see that we have ACS is one of our main data sources, and we've worked with it for many, many years. So the website is listed here. I invite you to pull it up and start exploring it on your own. And I've also noted all of our partners on the side here. We don't have time for a full site tour, so I want to highlight a few features. We have overviews of metrics for all of the 35 metrics by district, just showing how they're doing comparing to the national average. We provide population data and facts about the districts, including who their representation is. We have maps of the US, state, congressional districts, and then we can compare those to state or national averages. We break down a lot of metrics by demographics, as I said, and all data is available for download, and we have highly extensive technical documents that some of you might enjoy. So I have two screenshots here, and you'll see this if you go on the website. This is an example of an overview of some metrics for a district, so you can see the comparing of the district to the national average, and we have some color coding. And then this is an example of a map that we might see for a district for a metric children in poverty that does come from ACS. So that's basic interview to the dashboard, but I really want to get into how we derived these 118th Congress metrics. So as I already mentioned, no, we could not find any data sources that are currently providing 118th Congress metrics for this Congress that's in session right now. So we did a method where we aggregate from a smaller geography that is available from most data sources, either census tracts or counties. And there's a specific challenge in doing this for congressional districts. They're drawn in very specific ways, redistricted every 10 years. And they are intended to have similar population sizes, but that means that their physical sizes vary greatly across urban and rural areas. For example, New York's 9th district is a small portion of Brooklyn, New York, so a subsection of a county, whereas Montana's 1st district covers half of the state, so contains many counties. So this created a challenge that our methods for going from a tract or a county estimate needed to account for how much of a county overlapped and the differential population densities and distributions. So we did a lot of work to decide what methods we wanted to use. And one thing is that we determined we would always use census tract level estimates instead of county when possible. And for ACS, it is possible to get census tract data. Because we found that counties, because they're larger size, they spatially overlap less well with congressional districts. And like I noted for the Brooklyn district, especially in urban areas, which means that you have to do a lot of accounting for overlap. Whereas you'll see on this map on the left of the Arizona 7th, that the overlap is actually quite good for census tracts. So you need to do less to reapportion those estimates accurately. So the method we used is a dasymmetric approach that's used in many types of literature to reapportion estimates to different geographies. So the main overview of this method is we take the original estimate from the census tract or the county, and that would be a rate or percent estimate. And if we are using a data source like ACS that requires often combining multiple variables like a numerator and denominator, or summing various smaller groups to get the estimate of interest, we do combine those multiple variables at this smaller geography level. We found that produced more accurate estimates. So we get our initial estimates, and then we create a census block derived population weight that helps us to accurately apportion those starting geography estimates. And then we sum those population weighted estimates to get a final congressional district estimate. And there is a lot of literature that details how this has been successfully applied to congressional districts in the past, but never to the scale that we did for this dashboard. And I did want to note that the method differs slightly when you're doing a count estimate versus a rate of percent. And I won't get into that, but if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer. So the meat of this aggregation method is the population weights that we created. So as I noted, the census block is the unit that we use to population weight because they nest within all census geographies, like congressional districts or like tracts or counties. And so we needed a crosswalk between the census blocks with the two geographies we were trying to relate. So we can get the tract and county block relationship from the census, but because 118 Congress was recently redistricted, we had to go directly to all states to get the files that assign 2020 census blocks to 118 congressional districts, which you can imagine was a fun data cleaning challenge. And then we combined these with the 2020 block population counts that are available directly from the decennial census. The reason we didn't get these congressional district and block files was from the census is that they weren't released until December 2022. We launched in January. We did do a match analysis and found that our state-based files matched up to 0.0001%. So we feel confident about that. And then we use these relationships between the three geographies and the population counts to create the weights. They represent how much of each tract or county's population overlaps with the associated congressional district using the block populations. And we created weights for multiple demographic groups so that we were able, for when we provide demographic subgroup estimates for various metrics, we're able to accurately population weight those because we know that there are differential population distributions. And I'm happy to describe how we defined each of these demographic subgroups if anyone's interested. And finally, for ACS estimates, we provided 2020 ACS data, which are in 2020 geographies, as many of you know. Some of our metrics had not yet been provided for the year 2020 or hadn't yet switched to the 2020 decennial census, and we're still in 2010 geographies. So in order to apportion those from 2010 into the 118th Congress, which is built on 2020, we incorporated a file from IPM's National Historic Geographic Information System to accurately reapportion 2010 blocks into 2020. And then we were able to apply the same method moving forward. So we have a fun visual here that we like to show just to help put this into perspective. If this were a congressional district and it overlapped with 4 census tracts, then you can see that these little squares represent a block and that we would allow of this yellow tract 3, whatever proportion of its population was in these 4 blocks would be contributing that much of that estimate to the congressional district. We went through various validation steps to ensure that we felt confident in our aggregated estimates. Our main method was aggregating for the 116th Congress, and because the ACS does currently provide 116 data, and then we were able to just compare directly our derived estimates to the true ones from ACS. We used a measure of error, mean absolute error, which just averages the difference between estimates. And we found that our estimates were consistently, the mean average error absolute error was consistently below 1 across 3 different types of ACS measures we looked at and all the demographic breakdowns. We did find some instances where the error was larger than we were comfortable with. And so we applied a censorship criteria for our congressional district estimates that if larger than 25% for tracts or 10% for counties of the population were missing data, we would not provide those, just to be confident in what we were providing. And for those of you who use ACS data, you know that for smaller demographic subgroups at the tract level, there's more likely to be missing data. So you'll notice on the site that those are generally the estimates that are censored if they are for ACS. And I just wanted to note, we did make internal R function for anyone who likes using R to accurately and quickly perform these aggregations across all of our metrics and our subgroups. Here's a screenshot of that function call, just because we're very proud of it and it's worked really well for us. So we're able to identify our start and end geographies, our data frame, the variable we want to aggregate, whether we're going to stay within 2020 census or we need to go from 2010 to 2020, and our demographic group, as well as if we're using counts. If you are familiar with the tidy census package in R, they provide a function called interpolate PW that can perform an identical aggregation. So if anyone is interested in mirroring our methods, you can use this function. It uses spatial files, so its runtime, especially at a national level, is slower. But we provide all of our variables in our technical documents, and we're always happy to share more about how we got these methods. So for the dashboard's next steps, we just launched 6 months ago. So our main priority is continuing to get this data in the hands of anyone who could use it, including in front of congressional district staff, researchers. So please reach out if there's any interest in using the data. We have a data release in a few weeks. We're adding some multi-year data for ACS, the 2021 release, the CDC Places Project, and PM 2.5 from the EPA. And we're also going to add census tract level estimates to allow users to identify where there might be disparities within their congressional districts to better focus their efforts. And in the future, we are always hoping to provide new measures that might be more relevant for this level of geography, downloadable data reports so you can easily bring the information to share. And then currently we only provide the 435 congressional districts plus DC, and we're very interested in providing data for what are called non-voting bodies and more. So if you have any ideas, again, please reach out. And here's some of our contact information, which you can also find on the website. And I've just included some references at the end. So thank you so much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks a lot, Taylor. So just checking in, is Brian still here with us from Prince William County?
We're having trouble getting Brian back in.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have Chelsea Richard from South Carolina, First Steps. And I see you there, Chelsea. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Let me just go ahead and share. All right, are y'all seeing the slides? I'm seeing head nods, great. So hi, as David said, I'm Chelsea Richard. I'm the Director of Research and Strategy at South Carolina First Steps. I'm gonna walk through a little bit about what that means and how we're using ACS data to drive needs assessments, strategic planning, and funding allocations for early childhood programs in South Carolina. So first, I want to talk about the need in South Carolina. So we have over 340,000 babies, toddlers, and preschoolers. And things here, like in many other states, are dire for those children. So 64% of rising kindergartners are testing not ready for school. Almost half of them live in poverty or low-income households. Over half of them are not enrolled in preschool when they're ages 3 to 4. We have a high prevalence of low birth weight, as well as a fair amount of children who are read to less than 4 days per week. And this is data that we use a lot to talk about our need with legislators, with funders. And if you look at these, you might be familiar with these. These are data that come directly from the American Community Survey. So we are using these in a lot of our case making across the board. So South Carolina First Steps is a state government agency as well as a 501c3 nonprofit, and we are focused on getting children ready for school and life success. And when we mean that, we don't just mean academically, but we also mean mentally, physically, developmentally, and not just young children, but also their families, their communities, and childcare providers and other service providers that support them. So we do this through a variety of ways. We have programs that span all of these domains. So health, parenting, early care and education, and school transition, which is really going from that early childhood program to big school, as we like to call it. And so we do programs and services across these areas through these three mechanisms. So the first is that we have an affiliate nonprofit in every county of the state. These are called our local partnerships. They serve as local resource hubs as well as providing direct services to those young children, families, and childcare providers. Last year, through these local partnerships, we served about 50,000 children. Then we are also the home of state-funded 4-year-olds kindergarten. So the Department of Education runs this through public schools, and then we run it basically everywhere else. So we're in charter schools, private schools, faith-based centers, childcare centers, you name it, we're probably there. And this is high quality, free preschool for Medicaid eligible 4-year-olds in South Carolina. And last year we served about 3,300 kids in that program. 2 years ago was the first, or last year, I guess, was the first time it was available statewide. Prior to that, it was only available in certain school districts where there was higher levels of poverty, but now it is available to all students that meet that eligibility criteria. And then finally, we are also the home of the Early Childhood Advisory Council, which is just proof that we know that when we work together, we work better. So this is really bringing together the whole early childhood system in South Carolina. So this isn't just us, but this is also our Medicaid agency, our state health department, our state Department of Education, our state child care licensing and child protective services agency, as well as other statewide entities and organizations, and representatives from the business community, the medical community, childcare, parents of young children sit on this group to do really interesting collaborative interagency work. So I'm going to focus my talk today mostly on the local partnerships because these are the entities that really use the American Community Survey data the most. And we do that in a few ways, and I'm going to walk through all of these. So every 3 years, they're legislatively required to do a needs assessment and a strategic plan. And then annually, we use the American Community Survey data to fund them, to allocate resources to them through state dollars, and then also to measure their success, which we call overarching measures of success because there's 6 of them, but I'm going to show you 3 of them that are big pillars for our agency at the state level that says in 5 years, this is where we want to go. And then each local partnership has their own version of that. And then we support all of that through state developed and supported templates, data dashboards, and infographics. And all of that comes out of my shop here, the research and strategy team. So recently in last September was when we kicked off this process. So the first is how they're going to assess and prioritize their needs. So the first, this describes the process that they all went through. So the first is called Learn. So this is where they attended trainings about the sort of whole process and all the tools that were available. Then they convened their communities to develop a vision for young children and their families. We asked them to do that either through 2 separate meetings or multiple in-person meetings, providing a meal, really building trust with these folks to share, hey, where do we want to go in this county? So it's really county level. Then the understand piece of this is that they reviewed local data to understand the state of young children, their families, and their early childhood system in their county. And I'll dive in a little bit in a minute to what that means. And then once they understood that whole landscape of needs, they took it back to their own nonprofit and said, okay, where do we want to work? Where are we uniquely positioned to make a difference? What makes sense for us to like claim and own in our community? And so this is where they're gathering all the insights and they're prioritizing the concerns, needs, and gaps that they want to address for their 3-year strategic plan. And so all of this entire process that you see here happened between September of 2022 and March of 2023. So, oh, I'm glad the GIFs are working. So I built these dashboards and I'll drop the link in the chat when I get a sec. But that is, here's an example of these dynamic Tableau dashboards that I built using some ACS data. So some of the ones that you saw on that needs slider in here, there's some birth data on here. And this view that you're seeing here is these 2 county maps side by side with these tooltips. So when you hover over, you get a little bit more information. You can change the year, you can change some demographics. And folks really liked these because not only can you do those 2 maps side by side, they also look really nice. So they could just screenshot them, put them directly into their plans and utilize them. So again, these are nonprofits that operate at the county level. And so we did a lot of the data at the county level, but we also dug deeper using the American Community Survey data into the census tracts. So here is an example This is one county highlighted. This is the county that I'm currently in, Richland County, which is where the capital city of Columbia is. So these are two census tract maps side by side. You can't select multiple indicators on this. The indicator on the left is the main way that we define children in need. So this is the population under age 6, less than 185% of poverty. That is the from the ACS tables B172024. I'll never forget that number. On the right side are what we call childcare deserts. So this is from a definition from a bipartisan think tank called the Center for American Progress. And so how this is defined is a census tract that has more than 50 children under the age of 5 and either contains no childcare providers or so few childcare providers that there are more than 3 children for every 1 available childcare slot. And so those census tracts that are in red, those are considered childcare deserts. And so comparing these two maps, what you might want to target your interventions on places where it's dark on the left map, meaning more children under age 6 that are quote unquote in need. And on the right side is a childcare desert. So this allows you to do that view. The tooltips have the same information on both sides, just in different orders. So at the top of the tooltip shows you what you're seeing on the map and then just gives you a little bit more insight. So folks, our local partnerships really liked these dashboards for a few reasons. One, not only was this the first time they had seen a lot of this publicly available data put together in one place. Again, the maps were beautiful, so they could just grab them, but also it allowed them being the executive directors and staff of those small nonprofits to be a really important voice in their community, to have data and to have that tool to not only for this process, but also for other processes, to empower them to use data across their community to make decisions. So after they got the needs assessment done, which this was one tool that was provided to them, they were also provided lots of other tools. So I know Taylor just mentioned on the City Health dashboard. So they were given other tools like that already exist, Annie's KC Foundation, for example, lots of other data to use as well, in addition to these, but this was the main one that I built for them. Then they entered the strategic planning process. So after the needs assessment, they've prioritized the needs, then they write their 3-year comprehensive plan. And so this utilizes the needs assessment part. There's another part of the needs assessment that's about resources assessment. So here's all these entities in my community. Do I really need to be providing this service, or is it covered by somebody else? That's some of the questions that get answered through that process too, so that they can plan ahead for, okay, over the next 3 years, these are the programs I want to run. These are the funds that I need. These are the partners I need to bring to the table. Oh, here's an interesting gap. We don't currently have something to do that. Maybe we go for this other money to do an innovative thing. Then they apply for funding through us. That is the formula funding grant process that I'll describe in a minute. That is our state allocation that we get annually from the South Carolina General Assembly. Through a formula process, they go through a grant application and apply for those funds every year. There's also other grant opportunities that we offer at that time, as well as throughout the year, that are competitive and targeted grants. That is a mix of private, state, and federal dollars that we make available to them. And then finally is the taking action part. So then they implement that plan for 3 years. So they execute those programs and services, and then finally monitor the progress on implementing those programs to fidelity, meaning as designed, and also to achieving their comprehensive plan goals that they've set. So the formula funding allocation is also built on this number of children in need, again, which is the population under age 6, less than 185% of poverty, that we get from the ACS by county. The graph you're looking at is from last fiscal year, but how we do this is that every county gets a minimum allocation of $200,000. So you'll see to about halfway down to the right, those counties have less than 2,800 children that meet this threshold, but we know that there is some base funding of, like, to operate a nonprofit, I need this base amount of money. And so everyone gets that base allocation. Then this cut line, everyone above that, basically splits the remainder of the pot based on how many more children they have under age 6 under that 185% of poverty. So if you're familiar with South Carolina, to the left is those are where our biggest urban areas are. And so that's where the most people live. A lot of these really rural places, people are migrating from this way. So these population counts are continuing to decline. A lot of these are going up. So last year, because of the 2016 to 2020 data and all of the fluctuations that came with it, particularly around the margins of error, we instituted a new formula that will go live this coming fiscal year that starts in July. Is that now we used to rerun that model every year, acknowledging that we're not really supposed to compare the ACS data from year to year, but we need a way to update that allocation model every year. So that's what we're doing. But now we have instituted, and not just we convened this whole task force of our board. Our board made this decision and really grappled a lot with the data, and where they landed after about 6 months of deliberations was to cap that year-to-year change at 3%, so that your population count can't swing plus or minus any more than 3%. And that's really for planning purposes, right? So we tell them what they're getting the money for how much money they're getting basically in mid-June, and that the year starts July 1. So in 2 weeks, you'd have to, account for a $100,000 loss potentially or $100,000 gain. And so this allows us to protect them from those major shifts that might happen because of the margins of error. And so that's a new thing, again, that we'll be implementing this year. And part of it is because of those wild swings. And so this year that we're currently in, we actually didn't use the 16 to 20 data. Instead, we just kept the 15 to 19 allocation while we figured it all out. And again, that was our board who made that decision. And then finally, I'll just share our overarching measures of success. These three, the denominator is based on some American Community Survey. So again, the first two are the children in need part. That's that population under age 6, less than 185% of poverty. And then finally, at the very bottom, that denominator is just all children under age 6. So we use this all from the same American Community Survey table that we update every year, and then we release it to our local partnerships at their county level and calculate these for them as well. So that is all for me. So I will pass it on to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thanks, Chelsea. I think I saw Brian log back on, or if you're ready, Brian, from Prince William County.
Brian, would you like me to share slides?
I'll let you know in a second.
Okay.
Do you all see anything?
Not yet.
If you could try again, that would be great.
And while we're waiting, folks, if you have questions for Chelsea or any of our other prior speakers, feel free to enter them into the Q&A. Oh, there we go. See it now, Brian.
Great. All right, if y'all can see it, that's great. And again, I apologize. It's the organization's computer, and there's all types of security issues and features. My name is Brian Engelman. I'm the demographer with Prince William County Government in Northern Virginia. Been in this position for some time now, and what really drove this effort was the need to modernize. So I'm, not only doing population and housing estimates for county services, but I'm utilizing all types of population and demographic data that's out there, including decennial and ACS data. So what we wanted to do with my website, which I maintain, is to automate the start to end process, data download to data posting on our website, so that we can eliminate all that manual labor. And so we use ArcGIS and we have an enterprise subscription, and so we sought to utilize all the features of ArcGIS, including the desktop and the online applications. So we explored all the ways that we could do that, and as it turns out, we we found out a way to use the Census Bureau's API to plug into ArcPro scripts and build a tool for that. So this not only saves us time, but it boosts the user friendliness and aesthetics of our web pages. And it increases the currency and accessibility of frequently requested data, because I work with virtually every county agency, and there's not a project that I can necessarily predict. There's a lot of new requests and new things that come up, and so to be able to refer people to a one-stop shop where all this data is invaluable. This was kind of the new web pages mapped out before we dove into it. It was using ArcGIS Hub as the new homepage, and then having web pages stem off of that, such as my in-house estimates that I produce biannually at various geographies, and then demographic change and geographic comparisons, which is the one that utilizes the ACS data and is supposed to refresh every year when it comes out. So Catherine is not with us today, but Catherine was hired back in July, and she was tasked with this automation process, because we all have varying levels of skill sets in our GIS unit here in Prince William. Mine is very much knowledge-based and GIS-based and crunching numbers and statistics. When it comes to coding, I'm a bit weaker. So I apologize if I can't answer questions on that. But Catherine was really hired for that purpose, because she had a lot of experience with Python and was able to dive into this project. And so what we ended up doing was taking the Census API and calling tables such as the demographic profile tables, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They include much of the data that the ACS has available in the detail tables. And we ended up writing a Python script to download as a JSON and convert to a CSV. Now, what was happening then was there were differences, between the headers and what ArcPro and GIS programs would accept versus what the U.S. Census Bureau had in their tables when you download them. So, we had to create a lookup table to be able to kind of translate between our headers that we use for GIS and the headers that the Census Bureau had in their files. And so, that's kind of a fingers crossed thing, right? Where you hope those headers don't change because you want the schema to be the same every time, so that the code works. Once that's done, it's imported to ArcGIS Pro, and because we're just doing county data at this time, we don't need to attach a feature class, because it's just the county. So we attach a fake geography to it so that ArcGIS Online likes it, and then we correct some aliases and upload to ArcGIS Online, which I'm going to show you in a second. We create applications and dashboards through ArcGIS products that's offered through our subscription, and it overwrites the data and updates the apps when we change the code in the API to reflect the most current year. And I do think this is relevant to a few folks who I've heard speak throughout this conference. I know some others have been utilizing the API in this way to seamlessly make updates to dashboards and such. This would be what the tool interface looks like, and where a user such as myself would go in to update the API call. This December, when the new set of 5-year estimates are released, we can go in here and update that, and it will run all the way through the script from formatting and field name processes to posting online. And I'll show you in a second what that dashboard actually looks like. This is the ArcGIS dashboard. It's just a screenshot of how that data connects to the visualization aspect. This was the actual transformation. So from old to new, from SharePoint/Drupal to ArcGIS Hub, and that's the new Prince William Demographics homepage. Still a work in progress. We have 2 offshoot websites, including my population estimates, so you can see kind of how the old is consolidated and translated to the new, taking up less space and hopefully being more useful to our user community. And then what we used to have is, more static tables that I would copy and paste, format, and place onto SharePoint or Drupal, now fully automated and connected to our apps that we designed, not without the help of Esri, because using, I don't know if anybody has experience with ArcGIS dashboards or experiences or one of the many, many apps that are now available online, but some of them require some practice and technical assistance. So the next step would be a continuation of these web updates to fully transition away from copy and pasting static tables, and to actually integrate the Bureau of Labor Statistics API with this automation tool, because we report a lot of labor force and employment data to our budget and finance offices, that season of which is coming up. So we're hoping to finish up a web page that includes all of those data needs, and to update those because they are more frequent, so quarterly and monthly. So that's kind of a fingers crossed that it's going to work. It looks like it's working with some minor tweaks. And of course, integrating a story map for how the county developed post-World War II. So if I may, I'm just going to share the actual website with you so you can get a sense. I know this is ACS focused, so I'm going to just kind of focus on that aspect of the web page. We have the population estimates tool, which a user is able to go in here and actually free select points and query the most current population. And this was designed using ArcGIS web application builder, if anybody is interested. And this is the data that I maintain. So this is an ACS data, but it's just a quick mention that that's part of the overhaul. These are the dashboards, which it looks a little bit better because I have a widescreen computer. So if I just kind of minimize it a little bit, this is what it would look like on a normal computer. And tabbing through various aspects of the demographic profile tables that we connect to via API. And so we were able to test this back in December or was it January? I forgot about the COVID delays when the latest ACS 5-year estimates came out, and we had success just updating the API code and automatically plugging in, overwriting the data, and giving us kind of a seamless update from start to finish, from download to data posting. And so this right here is comparative for Prince William, DC Metro, Virginia, and the United States, because a lot of our agencies create narratives for reporting purposes around demographics. So folks who are coming in here are looking at the poverty rates for different Prince William age groups and comparing them to the metro, the state, and the U.S. And as you can see, Prince William tends to find itself in a better position with poverty compared to the larger geographies when we look up to the metro, the state, and the U.S. And so that same narrative forming data is available across different subject areas that the ACS provides. So I think I'm finished with my end here, and I'll leave it up to you guys for questions.
Thank you, Brian. And great we were able to get you on. And finally,
Thanks
we
for your
have
patience.
Megan Schuweiler from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. Megan, are you on?
Hi, yep, I am on. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Looks great.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Megan. I am a senior data analyst at IPUMS, which is a research center at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities. And today I will be talking about how you can automatically adjust monetary values in ACS data using IPUMS USA. Before I jump into how to automatically adjust monetary values, though, I'm going to provide a brief introduction to IPUMS and then to IPUMS USA for those who may be unfamiliar with what IPUMS is and what it is that we provide. So we are a research center that provides U.S. and international census and survey data. We provide integrated documentation and standardized data across time and space to streamline analysis. We currently offer 9 data collections, each of which contain multiple censuses or surveys, such as the American Community Survey and the Current Population Survey. And we make these data accessible through the online data extract system, which allows you to create custom data files that contain only the samples and variables of interest to you. Our funding primarily comes from NIH, NSF, the Gates Foundation, and others to promote data accessibility. And all of our data and user support services are free of charge. So IPUMS USA is one of the 9 data collections available at IPUMS. And I'm going to quickly share with you what is available through the IPUMS USA data collection. So IPUMS USA offers U.S. Census microdata samples from 1850 to 2010, U.S. Census full count microdata from 2000 to 2021, American Community Survey microdata from 2000 to 2021, and Puerto Rico Community Survey microdata from 2005 to 2021. Now, these census and survey data contain many variable topics of interest. At the household level, this includes topics such as economic characteristics, dwelling characteristics, household composition, and sub-state geography, as many of the previous presenters have been discussing. And at the person level, topics such as demographics, migration, work, income, and education. So now some of the variable topics that I just mentioned on the previous slide, namely household level economic characteristics and person level income, contain monetary values that need to be adjusted for inflation if you're going to use these variables to study change over time. And so the team at IPUMS decided to develop a feature on our website that does the work of adjusting monetary values for you so that you don't have to do that. So prior to this release of this feature, the responsibility of adjusting monetary variables for inflation fell to the user. IPUMS provided the adjustment factors needed to make the adjustments for inflation, but it was up to the user to make the necessary adjustments for the years that they were interested in studying. And this work can become tedious and cumbersome depending on how many variables and samples are included in your analysis. And so we developed the Adjust Monetary Values feature, which allows you to automatically adjust monetary values into constant units using the IPUMS data extract system. So to use this feature, you would go onto the website and you would add samples and variables to your data cart in the same way that you would as before. But now you can choose to adjust select variables for inflation before submitting that request for download. Currently, adjustments are being made to $2010 using the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers. I can talk more about why we chose that pricing index in the Q&A if folks are interested. So I'm going to do a quick website demonstration of how to use the Adjust Monetary Values feature by providing a walkthrough of the IPUMS USA website and how you would go about adjusting variables for inflation. Maybe. It looks like my computer is running a little slow here with the Hubelo platform running at the same time. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here is the IPUMS USA. Oops, sorry, technical difficulties here. So here's the IPUMS USA homepage. I want to draw your attention briefly to the left-hand menu bar here. There's a lot of links here to data, supplemental data, documentation, and other support services. I would encourage you in your own time to check out these links and learn more about what's available through this site. There's two main ways to engage with data on this website. You can use the online tool for analysis by clicking the Analyze Data Online, or you can create a custom data set that you can then download for use on your computer, and that's what we're going to walk through today. So I'm going to click Get Data here, and that's going to bring me to the Variable Builder page. On this page, I can select samples and I can select variables to do the analysis that I'm interested in doing. And so you'll note here that right now our data cart is empty. As we add things, as we add samples and we add variables, we're going to see that pop up in our data cart. So let's start with samples. If we click Select Samples here, this brings us to the Select Samples page, where we see the full list of samples available through this site. So you'll notice that some of these samples are already selected. That's because we've got a set of default samples. If you want to unselect those, you just go ahead and click this box. It'll unselect those defaults. For this demonstration, I'm going to select the 2021 ACS, 2016 ACS, and the 2011 ACS. And I'm going to go ahead and click Submit Sample Selections. Now you'll see that in our data cart, we've got 3 samples added. So for variables, we've got household level variables and person level variables. If I hover over the household drop-down menu, you'll see variable groups like economic characteristics, dwelling characteristics, household composition. These were all things that I had mentioned earlier. If we click on economic characteristics, That's going to bring us to the economic characteristics variable group. So these are all the variables that kind of fall under this category. Let's say we're interested in total household income. We would scroll down to find that variable here, total household income. And I can see by these X's that this variable is available for all three of the samples that I've selected in my data cart. If I want to learn more about this variable before I commit to adding it, I can click on the name here, household income, and it's going to bring me to the description. So this will describe what this variable is. I can explore what the codes are, what the comparability of this variable is over time, who's considered in universe for this variable, and so on. If I know I want to add it from here, I can click add to cart. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And now I can see here I've got one variable in my data cart and 3 samples. Now, if I want to return to that economic characteristic variables list, I can go ahead and do that. And let's add some person level variables as well. We can add some demographics. Now, I don't have to click into the variable description to add those. I can also just click the plus signs here next to the variables. And then let's add some income variables here. So let's add wage and salary income, and let's add welfare income. All right, so I've got 5 variables and 3 samples. I'm going to go ahead and click View Cart. Now I can see a summary of my data cart. This is going to be all the samples and variables that I've selected. Note that there's some pre-selected variables here. We just add those automatically for you. That's things like person weight, person number, group quarter status, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and create my data extract. If I wasn't happy with what my data cart looked like, I could clear it out and start over, or I could add some more variables or samples here. But I'm going to move forward. So we'll go ahead and click that. And that brings us to the extract summary page. So the first half of this page is really going to be a summary of what your data extract is going to look like. So again, we've got samples and variables here. We can click show to see that list if we want. We've also got the data format and structure that the data file will be downloaded into. Note that these are changeable, so you can change the format and structure to fit your needs. If you're more comfortable with a data file, you can change the format to be downloaded in a DTA file. I want to note here that we've got 15 variables, so keep that in mind as we move forward. So then the other part of this page are the extract options, and these are options to further customize your data extract. And this is where you're going to find the adjust monetary values feature. So if we go ahead and click that, that's going to bring us to a page where we can select the variables that we want to adjust for inflation. Note that not all of the variables we added to our data cart are listed here, right? There's only going to be select variables that are eligible, right? Sex and age are not going to be eligible because it doesn't make sense to adjust those for inflation. So you'll note the original IPUMS variable, the label, and then the adjusted IPUMS variable name. So these variables are going to be added as additional variables to your data extract. They won't replace the original, so you'll have both to compare to. So I'm going to go ahead and select each of these and click Submit. And now you'll see that I've got 18 variables in my data cart rather than 15. So the last step is to add a description. So I'm going to do website demonstration. And I'm going to submit my extract request. All right. And now I can see here that my extract is processing. Once it's completed, I'll see this completed check mark, and I will have an option here to download the file along with the corresponding command files. And I can also revise this if there's something that I forgot or I want to take something out. I can also revise this extract to fit my needs. So that is a quick website walkthrough. let me find my Megan here. All right, so the data collections that currently offer the Adjust Monetary Values feature are IPUMS USA, which is the U.S. Census and American Community Survey data. All samples and select household and person level variables are available for adjustment. And then we also have the IPUMS CPS data collection, which is the current population survey. That has the basic monthly samples and the select household and person level variables available for adjustment. To learn more about this feature and how to navigate these websites, you can visit the IPUMS USA and CPS websites. I've linked the QR codes here. Otherwise, I also included the links at the bottom, or the web addresses at the bottom. A future expansion of this feature will include additional variables for both USA and CPS, additional samples, including ASEC samples for CPS, and additional data collections. I want to acknowledge that our funding is provided by the Eunice Kennedy Shriver National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. And I want to thank everyone on the Adjust Monetary Values team who has contributed to the development of this feature. I know that we're going to hold questions till the end, but if you have additional questions or feedback beyond this session, please reach out to our user support team, ipums@umn.edu. We have an awesome team that is always eager to help you out. So definitely reach out to them. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Megan. And thank you to Prakhar, Taylor, Chelsea, and Brian as well. The floor is open now, guys, for the next 10 minutes or so for questions for our presenters. To kick things off, I don't know if Prakhar is still on. I'd be curious to know who your primary internal and external audiences are. Oh, Prakhar, I don't know if you got that. The question I had was who your primary internal and external audiences are with that platform you shared with us.
Yeah, sorry for the delay. I was just trying to open my mic. It was not letting me.
No
Yeah, so majorly our audience is various city departments. As I have given some examples, like we are working with housing and planning department in the city. We are also working with the demographers office, Austin Public Health, even Austin Energy. And then apart from that, since the dashboard is public, we are also inviting other community groups in the city to come and look at it and have their own insights. Our agenda of this entire tool is to provide that decision support capability to all the departments and all the community group, and like even individual resident, whatever they want to demonstrate, they can do that using the tool itself.
Great, thank you. And then I guess there's a question in the chat. Brian, would you be willing to share your automation process in detail?
We could certainly do that. This was developed to help us internally, but we got many ideas from Esri, who we were informed also does this for their Living Atlas data. So if you were to go on, if you're familiar with ArcGIS Online and you are to utilize Living Atlas, they have various census data tables already connected to geographies that you can plug into any kind of app that you develop. So we had that in mind before we went about this, because we know that automation is already there. However, they didn't have the comparative aspects that we were looking to plug into our applications like the, comparing Prince William to the metro, the state, and the nation. So that's why we went rogue, so to speak, and did this customization. And we'd definitely be happy to share that. So just let me know.
Great, thank you. I have a question for Taylor. Will you guys be looking at historic data? I know it's going to be hard with the new congressional districts, but given that we're switching over right now, given the recent census, will you guys be doing any sort of historic analysis?
That's a really great question. We don't have plans for that right now. And the main reason, as you pointed out, is that congressional districts, when they're redistricted, change quite significantly. I recently did a comparison of the 116 to the 118 Congress and found that about like 20 to 40 congressional districts out of the 450 were geographically and demographically comparable. And so it could be useful to have longitudinal data as long as people know that they're not really comparable across time when the Congress changes. And for now, at least, we're hoping that the current Congress is the one that's using it. And so 118 is most useful. But if we get a lot of requests for old data, that's certainly something we'd be interested in providing.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience or panelists of each other? I've seen that as well. Question for you, Chelsea. Have you guys coordinated with other states? Because I imagine they probably would want to do something similar in terms of that dashboard you developed.
We haven't in any like real sort of streamlined effort, but we are actually based after a model in North Carolina as well. So they have similar, we like play off each other what indicators that we use, but there's a lot, all of and there's other states that have similar entities to us as well. But that's something that I'm still sort of building that network of folks to understand how we could work together.
Yeah, and I'm hoping the data users group can serve as that venue above and beyond just this conference. Any other questions from the group? I don't want to keep people longer than necessary. Speak now or forever hold your peace, as they say. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We have a break time, a break period between now and 3:30. Please come back and join us, stretch your legs, take a walk outside, come back and, to learn more about how you can use the ACS in your day-to-day work. All right, take care everyone.